principal do projeto de desenvolvimento do software Bugs, que foi um software que mudou a forma de se trabalhar e de se aplicar a estatística. Um software muito inovador e muito à frente do seu tempo. Ele permitiu que as pessoas com pouquíssimo conhecimento de estatística pudessem lançar mão desse ferramental que estava disponível para todos nós e que permitiria, a partir daquele momento, que todos, estatísticos e até pessoas com pouco conhecimento de estatística, a família Bugs foi uma família que teve vários filhotes e vários outros competidores surgiram, implementaram de uma forma mais eficiente e hoje em dia tem muitos outros softwares inspirados no Bugs que acabaram desenvolvendo. E o David foi a pessoa, foi um grupo, mas ele foi a pessoa, foi o leading figure nesse projeto que tão bem sucedido foi e tão importante foi para o desenvolvimento da ciência. E deu esse impulso que precisava depois da teoria ter sido estabelecida sobre o uso de MCMC, que hoje em dia todo mundo sabe, todo mundo conhece e todo mundo usa. A partir daí, ele começou a trilhar outros caminhos e começou a se preocupar progressivamente com como reportar a ciência, como reportar os resultados da estatística e como divulgar essa reportagem, estabelecer essa ponte de ligação para que as pessoas entendessem melhor o que é estatística e suas potencialidades, seus perigos, seus problemas e suas potencialidades e suas virtudes, principalmente. E ele desenvolveu também um papel fundamental nessa área de divulgação e de interface. E ele tem um blog muito famoso na comunidade de estatística, de uma forma geral, mas ele também se tornou, muito além do blog, como sendo o expositor das ideias da estatística para a sociedade de uma forma geral, explicando o que significavam cada um dos conceitos de uma forma que a sociedade pudesse entender. Esse desenvolvimento foi tão intenso, tão profundo e tão importante que ele acabou se tornando um dos pouquíssimos estatísticos ingleses, ou britânicos, melhor dizendo, a ser premiado com a honra de se tornar Sir. E isso aconteceu, acho que 2 anos, 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago. 2 anos atrás. Então, a comunidade estatística tem pouquíssimos Sir, teve uns 5 ou 6. E ele é um deles, e pelo reconhecimento que a sociedade britânica expressa através da realeza, da comunidade que envolve a realeza, e que premia cientistas e pessoas importantes da sociedade britânica de uma forma geral, ele foi um dos poucos reconhecidos, para vocês terem uma ideia do nível de importância que o trabalho que ele desenvolveu alcançou. Então, como vocês podem ver pela minha descrição, que eu tentei sumarizar o mais curto possível, dado o tempo, como ele tem contribuições importantes, tanto no desenvolvimento teórico básico, quanto na implementação dessas ideias teóricas, quanto na outra ponta, na ponta onde a gente talvez peque um pouco, que é na parte de explicar para a sociedade aquilo que a gente faz e como fazer isso bem. Então, ele percorreu todos os caminhos possíveis na vida de um estatístico. Eu acho que tem uma trajetória belíssima de profissional. Ele agora está como professor da Universidade de Cambridge. E acho que é o suficiente em termos de apresentação, né? Eu acho que deu para ter uma ideia boa de quem é o nosso opening speaker. And we are very happy to have you here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir David Spiegelhalter.
Hello. Bom dia a todos. I am sorry, that is all my Portuguese. It's my first time in Brazil, and I'm honored and very pleased to be opening this wonderful conference. That is also the longest introduction I have ever heard, and I'm glad I did not understand it. Okay, so let me see if I can get this working. As I said, I'm pleased and honored, and I'd also like to thank the organizers for looking after me so well. Let me see if I can, now is this going to work? Yes, it is. Now, okay, next, sorry, technology, slow technology here. I need my little button. I like to move around, so I'm going to use the stage. Okay, now, oh, thank you, right. Okay, so, yep, that's me. And I've put performing statistician because, as Danny explained, I used to be quite a technical statistician, doing the kind of mathematical things you're going to be talking about at this meeting, but I've turned into more an entertainer, or at least someone who presents statistics in public. I'm the Winton Professor for the Public Understanding of Risk, and this is it's a unique position, and I've got it because of this organization, which is a hedge fund, a finance company that gave the money for my chair, for me to be a professor. And we have a website, Understanding Uncertainty, and I blog and do a lot of media work. I've also written a book, Sex by Numbers, The Statistics of Sexual Behavior. But I will a little bit talk about that. It took a long time to write. It took a long time to choose the cover. That was going to be one of the cover. Nah, come on, quick. This is an international joke. It doesn't need language. But they really, I thought that was very good. But the publishers said, no. Can't have that as the cover. So that is the band cover, the cover they dare not show. I also play in a samba band, or used to. Yes, I know, but I'm not very good, But, you know, samba is very popular in Britain, and I love it, absolutely love it. But of course, being English, we don't dance. No, we can't dance. Our bodies are not designed for it. So, yeah. And I've done that. Now, do people recognize that? Who recognizes that? It's in Buenos Aires. Do people recognize it? Maybe you don't have the show here. This is in Buenos Aires. This is the Wipeout course, which is this obstacle course, which is very popular in the UK. And it's a game show, and which you have to perform in. And I'll show you how I got on. I was Professor Risk to go on television in this game show. And as I'll show you, this game involves an obstacle course. And the first round, there's 20 people fly to Buenos Aires for a weekend. And the winner goes back with £10,000. So it's quite good. But I didn't expect to win. But the first round is a qualifying round, and the fastest 12 go through. So as a statistician, I had to do my research. And if you go on to Wikipedia, you can find out the distribution of the times in the qualifier. And so the median is 3 minutes and 10 seconds. These are the pathetic people who end up crying in the water. And I did not want to be one of those. But the crucial thing, the important thing, was the 12th fastest time. And here's a low S fit in R of the 12th fastest time, which is about 3 minutes. So I practiced doing 3-minute exercise. And if I can make this work, you'll be able to see how I got on, I hope. Let's see whether this works. Here we are. Let's see whether this works. Okay.
This is incredible.
No, the picture's gone. This is not good. Okay.
Look, down there. Is that 20 ordinary everyday Brits, including a railway engineer, a poker player, and a penguin keeper, I can see raving? Now, this is Professor Professor David Spiegelhalter, OBE, and he's a professor of risk.
What this means is that if I'm going to qualify, I've just got to get below 3 minutes.
Yeah, right. Below 3 minutes is the key, and off goes the professor towards the nasty snowballs. Yes? Yes? Uh-oh!
They're horrible.
I know what he did there. He followed the y-axis when he should have followed the x. On to Granny's house now, a risky destination.
All right, Professor Spiegelhalter.
Yeah, he could still be doing this in under 3 minutes. All he has to do is clear both logs. Ow! Big ow!
The gentleman doth profess too much.
Despite that risky performance, Professor David Spiegelhalter, OBE, climbs to the finish in 3 minutes 17, just shy of his target.
The fastest 12 go
Taking the
through.
lead is Suspicious Helen, followed by Sexy Fiona and Carolyn from Outer Space. In fourth, it's Ball Crossing No Meat Marina. In seventh, Rob Boy. And scraping it through to the next round are Professor David Spiegelhalter, OBE, Ali the Penguin King, and Guinea Pig Mel.
Hang on. Whoa, I've got to stop this. Hang on. Whoop, how do I stop this? Oh, my screen's gone very strange. Okay, hang on. No, dear, I'm not doing very well here. How do I pause? No, you're not supposed to be seeing this. This is for the end. No. We can't have this. And no, I'm not doing very well on this. I think I'm just going to have to close the program. No, it's not working. How can I stop it? Spacebar. Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, where's my control panel gone at the bottom? How am I going to get? Oh, well, I'll work that out when I get to it. Double click on it. Do you think that'll work? Okay, cool. Thank you very much. I knew I needed some help. Right, okay. Let's see if this works. Okay, so that's what I did. Now, when you're working as a performing statistician with the media, there are various subjects that keep on coming up. Lotteries always come up. Birthday coincidences in the news, and sport. And I know nothing about sport or lotteries, really. So you have to, though, be ready with things to say about them. So lotteries is a good one. Communicating the chance of a jackpot win. Okay, let's take a lottery you may have heard of, which has been going for years. Yeah, it's a 660 lottery. So there's 60 balls, not 60 balls, but 60 numbers, and you choose 6, and if you get them all right, you win the prize. People, of course, buy many more than just one go, but for a single go, that is about a 1 in 50 million chance of winning. Now, how do we explain a 1 in 50 million chance? And people have thought of various stories. You can think of it as numbers of people. That's, if everyone in Brazil bought one ticket, then you would expect 4 people to win, perhaps. But what about this? Grains of rice, I think is a very good analogy. Grains of rice 60 grains of rice is about 1 gram. And so 50 million grains of rice is about 833 kilograms, nearly a ton. Nearly a ton of rice is 50 million grains, which is about 930 liters. Now, what does 930 liters look like? It looks like a bath, which is about 80 centimeters deep. So it's a bath which is overflowing with rice. So the analogy is that you put in that bath 1 golden grain somewhere in the bath, and then you reach in and you pull out 1 grain. And if you get the golden grain, that's like winning the lottery. So that's a good analogy, I think, to give a feeling of the unpredictability. Now, I was asked to do this for the Euro Millions lottery. I don't know why I'm getting that at the top. What does 100 million grains, which is 100 million chance of winning, 1 in 100 million. 100 million grains of rice looks like that. A children's paddling pool full of rice. That's about 100 million grains. And I did this for a television program, except we could not waste 100 million grains of rice. So that is a paddling pool, which is upside down, and then with blocks underneath. And so the rice is just spread thinly over the top. You can see it's quite thin. So it's not that much rice that was wasted. But they put in 1 golden grain. In fact, what we did was stick the golden grain to my finger, and so I could reach in and say, I've won. Yeah. So that's good. You know, you're trying to find stories, analogies. For birthdays, football and birthday coincidences. I think we all know the standard coincidence that if there's 23 people, there's more than a 50% chance that 2 will share a birthday. So the usual, a common way of displaying that is to say that in a football match, there are 23 people on the pitch, the 2 teams and the referee, and therefore, in half of all football matches, there will be 2 people who share a birthday. And that works out. People do it regularly, looking at football matches. And again, for this television program, we did it for a football match, and the researchers had found that there were 2 people who shared a birthday. And then it turned out, as we went along the line, and they shouted out the birthdays, there were 2 pairs. There were 2 pairs of people with birthdays. So I had to very quickly calculate in my head the chances that there were 2 pairs. I wasn't ready for it. I've forgotten I think it's about 16%, the chance of 2 pairs. Okay, so football. This is the sort of stupid thing. You know, I'm a very, Danny said I'm a very, important statistician, but I do stupid things as well. This is for the main BBC news program in the morning, the most important BBC news program, and they had a competition for the Euro 2016 between me and the journalist's dog, Mr. Whippy. Mr. Whippy was the dog, and for the Group B, which was Russia, Wales, England, and who was it? Was it Romania? No. Who was it? No, not in our group. No. Anyway, somebody else. We had to say who was going to win, and I did all the calculations using the betting exchange. I used their probabilities, and the dog just chose a sausage from either Wales or England in a park. The dog, yeah. But the dog was rather good, because the dog kept on choosing Wales. Now, England beat Wales. I got that one. I beat the dog on that one. But we ended up, it was 2-2 draw between me and the dog, which was not a great success for statistics, I think, but never mind. So you do this kind of stupid thing. I just put that in as an example of Fox News's ideas of a pie chart. You may notice that is not a very good pie chart. So they should add up to 100%. So I get asked to comment a lot on news stories like this. And for serious stuff, I recently, for example, this week, just last week, I had an article in The Guardian and The Observer newspaper on how politicians trick us with statistics. Well, that's British politicians. I'm sure Brazilian politicians are fantastic. And they never use numbers as a story or to influence you. But in Britain, they do. The politicians are terrible with numbers. So, and which this was very successful, nearly 1,000 comments, huge amount of coverage. And this was because of our Brexit, leaving the EU, terrible use of evidence and statistics by both groups, really. And I just want to read this because it shows the style of communication that I use, which is kind of light, but also serious. So, I love numbers. I love numbers. They allow us to get a sense of magnitude, to measure change, to put claims in context. But despite their bold and confident exterior, numbers are delicate things, and that's why it upsets me when they are abused. And since there's been a fair amount of number abuse going on recently, it seems a good time to have a look at the classic ways in which politicians and spin doctors meddle with statistics. So you can see the style. It's very personal. I'm turning numbers, treating them like children, like things you have to look after. and be careful with. Okay, and then I do other serious things. We're very lucky in Britain in that the BBC have got a lot of programs, BBC4, the channel science programs, that they get academics to present, not celebrities. So these are three professors in London, in Cambridge and London, presenting a program about climate change and statistics. And I did a program on chance, again for BBC4. So again, they get academics to do the presentations. It's difficult, you know. I'm not great, but it's all right. For this one, they said I had to do something dangerous. Dangerous. So I did a skydive. Have people done a skydive? Parachute? Who's done parachute? Yeah? Cool? You like it? Good? Dangerous? No. What is more dangerous? Jumping out of the plane or 50 miles on a motorbike, 80 kilometers on a motorbike? Which is more dangerous, plane or motorbike? Who thinks the plane? The parachute? Who thinks the motorbike? Yeah, okay. Well, it's very good to be able to make these comparisons. And for that, you need data. So if you go onto the British Parachuting Association website, you find out the number of people who are killed parachuting. Now, they don't put this spreadsheet at the very top of the website. I don't know why. You have to click and click and click, and then you find it that 4,600,000 jumps, 48 deaths. So almost exactly 1 in 100,000 jumps, the jumper dies, or 10 in a million. Now, I did a tandem when you're strapped to somebody, and there, 340,000 jumps, 2 deaths. I think these were correlated events. These were not independent events. The instructor and the student died together, I think. But that's about 3 in a million. I reckoned that I had about a 7 in a million chance of dying jumping out of the plane. So is that a lot? 7 in a million? How can we make these comparisons? In US Parachuting Association, again, they use fatalities per 1,000 jumps, but let's take it fatalities per million jumps, and this shows again, it's about 7, 8, 10, round about 7 to 10 in a million jumps, people die. So is that a lot? Well, fortunately, there is a unit of acute risk, and it's called a micromort. This was invented, it's a proper unit in Stanford by Ron Howard. It's a 1 in a million chance of sudden death. So jumping out of the plane is about 7 to 10 micromorts. And then there are various things. So skydive, I think, is about 10 micromorts. Now, I say 1 for getting out of bed and going to work, because in the UK, 1 in a million people every day are killed by an accident or violence or somewhere. I don't know what it is in Brazil. It's 1 in a million. It's about 1.6 in a million in the US. In the UK, it's 1 in a million, which means that we all are experiencing, on average, about 1 micromort a day when we cross the road, when we do anything. So jumping out of the plane is about a week. It's about a week. It's not too much. But other things you use up a lot more micromorts. You get about 10 kilometers on a motorbike for a micromort. So actually, I think 50 miles on a motorbike and jumping out of a plane are roughly similar. Roughly similar. Okay, so we can make these sort of comparisons, and I get asked to do these kinds of things. Now, that's one kind of risk, the sort of risk where you die immediately. But there's another kind of risk, what we call chronic risks. And, well, you probably don't know those. This is really disgusting English food. I mean, English food is not great anyway, But that is really awful food. I mean, this is really, it's fried, it's fat, it's greasy, it's not got any goodness in it. I love it. This is my, that's my favorite sort. I love that stuff. My favorite kind of food. But this is not good for you, this kind of food. And there's always a lot of publicity and statistics about what we eat and our exercise. So you may have seen this story. And this is the story about processed meat, bacon, ham, and sausages. Any meat, not pure red meat, like we will eat tonight, but meat that's been smoked or processed in some way. And that the WHO have declared is carcinogenic. Who had bacon this morning for breakfast? Nobody else. Am I the only one who had bacon for breakfast? I start the day with a carcinogen. It's great. So not every day, but I had bacon for breakfast. So the point is that the WHO, World Health Organization, said that this was the evidence that it was carcinogenic was as strong as cigarettes. In other words, the science was as strong as cigarettes. But the newspapers interpreted that to say it's as dangerous as cigarettes, that the magnitude of the risk was the same. So they completely misunderstood what was said. These are terrible headlines, ridiculous headlines. So what we need to know before we interpret this evidence is how common is bowel cancer. So bowel cancer, let me show you what the WHO said, that 50 grams of processed meat, that's about 3 pieces of bacon or a sausage like that, sort of sausage, that much every day was associated with an 18% increased risk of getting bowel cancer. Now, do we care? Is that big? Is that important? How do we interpret that? To interpret that figure, we need to know how many people will get bowel cancer anyway, because that is a relative risk, and we need an absolute risk. So around 6% of people will get bowel cancer anyway. So that's 6 in 100. If there's about 400 people here, so that's about 25 people in this room, unfortunately, will get bowel cancer during their lifetime. So what's an 18% increase over 6%? Now, you may be able to do that. I don't know a single journalist who can do that calculation. Journalists cannot do that calculation, and they need help. And the way to help them is by explaining it in terms of 100 people. Don't use probabilities, don't even use percentages. Just say, what does it mean for 100 people? And what this means is that for 100 people who sit down and have a healthy breakfast every morning, like you, sitting down to your granola and your fruit and your things. Yeah, I know. So 100 people like you, 6 will get bowel cancer anyway. And let's compare that now with 100 people like me, actually not like, but who every day eat that every day. I mean, that's definitely an English photograph, I don't think. You won't see things like that here. But if 100 people like that eat that every day, that's how many will get bowel cancer. That's the difference. That's the 18% increase over the 6. So that means that 100 people have to eat that every day of their life for 1 extra case. Now, you put it like that, and people feel very differently to it. Their emotional response is very different. And what this shows is that numbers do not speak for themselves. The images, the stories are really important. And that's such an important part of the communication, is getting the image and the story right. Okay, so, and many statisticians identified that this was the right thing to do. There's a Sense About Statistics, which is a new website in the US, did a very good article on this indeed, very good article. Okay, because these relative risks, oh, if you do this, it will increase your risk, are always misunderstood by everybody. Here's an example saying, oh, about red meat. Oh yeah, like tonight, red meat, saying how bad it was for you. It said that if people cut down the amount of red meat they eat, 10% of all deaths could be avoided. I don't think we can avoid 10% of deaths. I'm sorry to tell you, but we are all going to die. I'm sorry, I know, I don't like to break the news to you, but we are all going to die. So this is, people just do not understand these stories. It's something that I like as an image, as a story, is this idea of how old are you? How old is your body? We know your calendar age, how many birthdays you've had, but how old really is it? And this is getting very popular on the web. You can look at Dr. Oz. I hate him. Look at him. His real age is 55, but his real age is 47. Look at him, smug git. Anyway, so that's and why? Because he can sell you all the supplements and medicines that will make you younger. Everyone wants to be younger. Now, what does this mean, your effective age? What does it mean that your body is older than it need be? And this has got a technical definition, and there's a lot of work now in this statistical metaphor, this statistical story. What it says is that if this is the risk trajectory, the risk of a typical healthy person as they get older, and your risk always increases as you get older. If you are this age and your risk is up here, you're above a healthy person. And in fact, you've got the risk of somebody this old who is a healthy person. So you can see it's a simple technical definition that is very powerful because it can tell you, for example, your heart. Your heart, I'm 62, but this could tell me my heart is that of a 70-year-old healthy person. And that's supposed to help you change your behavior. And you can find out your lung age. You may be told that. You can find out your brain age. You can find out your eye age, etc., your heart age. Very important. And there are lots of websites now that will tell you how old you are. But sometimes they say really not quite stupid things, I think. This is a program. You can put in all these factors about how many cars you've got. How would you describe your usual walking pace? So I put all those in, and it tells you that your age, it told me my Hubble age was 52. Yes! 10 years younger than I really am. I thought, whoa, that's good. That's really good. And it'll tell you that my 5-year risk of dying is 2.5%. So out of 100 people like me, age 62, about 2 will die over the next 5 years, which I think is about right. So there's 2 people like me, 2 out of 100 will die in the next 5 years. I think, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, fine. I'm happy with that. So, and I was very happy until I found out that this calculator tells everybody they're 10 years younger than they really are. I did it on the radio, and the presenter was 10 years younger. Everyone is 10 years younger. I thought, oh, now why is that? Now, this is an interesting statistical thing. Why is almost everyone's age so low? Well, the reason is that it compares you with the average 5-year risk. In other words, the mean risk, not the median risk, the mean risk. And almost all the risk of dying over the next 5 years is contributed by people who are already ill. They've already got cancer. They've already got heart disease. So if you're not already ill, which is most people, you'll have a lower than average risk, which means that 99% of people have got less than the average risk. And so nearly everyone is less than average. And because do you know the story about the numbers of legs? Very simple one. Nearly everybody has got more than the average number of legs. Because the average number of legs is 1.9999999. Now, most people have got 2 legs, so nearly everybody has got more than the average number of legs, if you use the mean, not if you use the median. So there's a very important difference here, and it's because it's a very skewed distribution, a hugely skewed distribution. So it'd be much better to compare with the median risk rather than the mean. So these very simple ideas that we learn, in undergraduate or even in school about the difference between mean and median, and how the mean is a very bad measure of a very skewed distribution, are still important. Okay, let me talk about some, again, serious issues that I've worked in. And one of them was the leaflets for women being called for breast cancer screening, which are, it's a very important issue, but it's quite controversial about breast cancer screening in the UK and in the US. And the women get a leaflet helping you decide whether to go for breast screening, to get a mammography, an X-ray of the breast. And the crucial thing is that the new leaflets were based on a new philosophy that I admire. And it's a philosophy of not telling people what to do. It's a philosophy of providing the information in a balanced way, presenting the pros and cons, and it doesn't recommend that you have screening. It just tells you the harms and benefits. It doesn't say you should have screening, non-directive. And this is developed by talking to women. You engage with the public. You listen to the public, which we did through a citizens' jury who said what they understood, what graphics they liked. And they like this kind of graphic, which is known as an expected frequency tree. An expected frequency tree. And what it just says is, for a women going for an X-ray for breast screening, out of 100, we'd expect 96 to have a normal result, 4 will have a positive test and get recalled, but most of those will not have cancer. 1 will have cancer. And so it explains exactly what might happen if you do get a recall. It doesn't necessarily mean you've got cancer. And that kind of graphic is very clear to understand. Now, a more complex graphic is to do with what it means going for screening for 20 years, between 50 and 70. And the best expert judgments are that 200 women going for screening, 15 will develop breast cancer, 12 will be treated and survive, 80% survival rate now, very good, but 3 will die early from their breast cancer. Let's compare that with 200 women not going for screening, like the bacon sandwich. 15 will develop breast cancer, 8 will be treated and survive, 4 will die early from their breast cancer. So that's 1 fewer death in the group going for screening. However, 3 of these women will never know they've got breast cancer. They won't be investigated, they won't have operations, they won't have biopsies, they won't be breast cancer victims. So this means that the screening people have 1 fewer death, but they have 3 unnecessary treatments. There's 4,000 women treated every year in Britain unnecessarily because of the breast cancer screening program. And that information, and that's the harms and the benefits, and that information now is presented to women. And they have to make up their mind. And the same information, some women can say, yes, I want screening, and some women will say, no, I don't want screening. It's their choice. It's not a statistical, you can't solve the problem statistically. We have to just present the information. Okay, so that's quite a bold thing to do. There is a problem. The picture got taken out of the leaflet at the very end of the process, which I was angry about. And it's what I call a numeracy paradox. The leaflets are written for people with very low numeracy, about a reading age of 11, but with very low numeracy. But people with low numeracy tend to be less interested in shared care or informed choice in this information. So the paradox is that the leaflets are written for people who don't want to see the information, who don't want to read the leaflet. So I think that's a real problem. And what that suggests is that in risk communication, we need to have multiple layers. I'll come to that in a moment. But just to say that this idea of expected frequencies, those trees, and like I used in the bacon, what does it mean for 100 people, is now in our school math syllabus. This is for 11 to 16-year-olds, now get taught probability through the idea of expected frequencies with two-way tables, tree diagrams, and Venn diagrams. So that's now is a new innovation in the school probability syllabus to teach probability using ideas of expected frequency. And in fact, we've written a book with a teacher on how to teach probability using this idea of expected frequency. What does it mean for 100 people? And I think it's very, very important. Okay, just on risk communication, the crucial thing is that you have to respect audiences. Because people are so different. Some are very numerate, some are very interested, some don't want to know, some don't care. So what you need is a layered format. You need a top level, a number light level, maybe with no numbers at all. Just giving words and pictures, what's called a gist in English. Just a very simple summary. And then at the next level, you need numbers, tables, tested graphics. And then at the third level, right at the bottom, only for those people who are really interested, you can put the uncertainty, the intervals, the strength of the evidence, the science. So people can go to the level they want. I think it's like an iPhone. It's like an iPhone. You know, everyone uses a modern phone, but people use it to a different depth. I'm a very simple user. Everything is completely, on the defaults. But other people, you do much more sophisticated things with it. So the crucial thing is to work with the audiences. So I'm very lucky in that my benefactor has given us some more money to work even more with patients with cancer and others to develop good information material where we listen to the audiences. Okay. Oh, the other thing is Twitter, for example. I don't know, who uses Twitter? Do people use Twitter? Who uses Twitter? Yeah, some. I love it. It's my main source of information. I really use it. So for example, you can find some good stories. This was a terrible story. Financial crisis caused 500,000 extra cancer deaths, according to Lancet study. And they said that every 1% drop in healthcare spending was associated with 0.0053 additional deaths per 100,000 people. Now, think about that. Just think. There are 60 million people in the UK. So 60 million, that's 600 groups of 100,000 people. So 600 times that comes to 3. 3 people? How do they know 3 people? This is the most stupid number I've ever heard in a story. So you can tweet that. So you need, just in 140 characters, you can tweet something like that, and it gets a lot of coverage. It goes off to journalists, find it. It gets a lot of communication. So I really like Twitter as a quick response to ridiculous stories with a link to the newspaper article. Okay. Now, I said I'm a Bayesian statistician. Danny mentioned the Bayesian work. And I love Bayesian statistics, but I never mention the word. I never use the B word. I never say Bayesian, because it will just confuse people. Now, what do I mean by Bayesian? Especially, I mean the idea of Bayesian ideas is that probability is more than just chance, randomness. That's a type of probability, but there are lots of other types of probability to do with our knowledge about events. So I personally believe that probabilities do not exist as properties of the outside world. They express our relationship with the outside world, our knowledge of the outside world. They're always constructed on the basis of judgment, and probabilities are always conditional because they will change as you get more information. And they can be applied to uncertain facts, what's known as epistemic uncertainty. And this is the thing I absolutely love, and I want to push more. And because they, as I said, they change as information comes in. And informally, I use these ideas all the time, but I never say the word Bayesian. So, I'm going to do a little test on you. A test on Brazilian statistics. Yay, come on. I'm going to ask you a set of questions. Now, if you've got a pencil and paper, you can use that, but otherwise you can just remember your score. I'm going to test you. But I won't, it's all right, I won't record the scores. I'm going to ask a series of questions, with 2 answers, A or B, and you've got to say whether you think A or B is the most likely answer, the answer you believe most. And then think how confident you are with your answer. And give your confidence a number 5 to 10. If you're absolutely certain, say 10 out of 10. If you don't know at all, say 5. And then score yourself when you hear the correct answer. And that's the scoring rule. So if you say, I'm 10 out of 10 certain, and you're right, you get 25 points. But if you're wrong, you lose 75 points. Yeah. It's really nasty, this rule. It punishes you if you are too confident. And if you say 5, you just stay where you are. If you say 7 out of 10, you get 16 if you're right. You lose 24 if you're wrong. And if someone can spot the pattern there, I haven't got a prize, but tell me the pattern if you can spot it. Okay, here's a question. The first one is not Brazilian. Who's older, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump? Now, maybe you know, and no phones, no Wikipedia, no cheating. So you have to say, maybe you know, maybe you're very confident, but just put a number in your head. Think to yourself A or B, and think yourself 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give yourself a number, okay? And the answer is? Yeah. I think that's quite an easy one. Quite an easy one. But if you said 10 out of 10 Hillary Clinton, you got off to a very bad start. Yeah. Okay. Which state has the biggest population? Bahia or Rio Grande do Sul? Bigger population. Shh. Shh, shh, shh. Okay, maybe this is dead easy. Maybe you just all know. Maybe you don't know. Okay, now, all right. Have you given your number, given your head? You've got thought. What do you think the answer is? Yeah, A, by quite a lot, quite a lot. So score yourself roughly. Maybe you're doing okay. Which state is larger in area? São Paulo or Rio Grande do Sul? Yeah, this is getting tougher now. This is getting more difficult. Which is the larger area in square kilometers? Yeah. Again, no Wikipedia. All right. Have you made your judgment? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You've got to say which way. Okay. And the answer is? Yes. Okay. Maybe it's not too difficult. Maybe that was easy. Maybe that was easy. Okay. Which is further south? Porto Alegre or Cape Town? Which is further south? Now, you may think you know, but are you 10 out of 10 sure? Are you absolutely sure? All right. All right. Have you done your answer? Which is the answer? Sorry? Just Cape Town. If I'd said Durban is further north than Porto Alegre. 29 degrees. So anyway, so that's right. And finally, which is the higher total fertility rate? Oh, that says 2014 World Bank. Brazil or the UK? Who's having more babies? Brazil or the UK? Now, maybe you know. Yeah, okay. Does anybody know? What do you think? Yeah, UK just, okay. Yeah. Okay, so roughly add your scores in your head. Just roughly do it in your head. Now, did anyone get, the most you could get was 125. Did anyone get 100? Anyone get 70? 50? 40? Yeah. Anybody get 40? Come on, someone's got 40. No, 30? No? Oh dear. Let's go the other way. Did anyone get less than minus 100? Lose more than 100? No, okay. No, well done. Good. There's always... Now, did some people stay quite cautious? Around about 6, 7s and things like that. Yeah, cautious. This is a very female reaction, I think, to be quite cautious. I do this in schools a lot, and with different sorts of questions about, I don't know, Toy Story or things like that. So what you find is that there's 3 kinds of people. There are people who get quite high scores because they know something, or they're very lucky. There are people who get quite small scores because they're very cautious. They say 5, 6, 7, because they know what they don't know. But then there's a third sort of person who gets incredibly low scores, and these are people who think they know something but don't. Yeah, it tends to be a male characteristic. Young men who just, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, and they lose huge numbers. So, have you spotted the pattern? Have you seen the pattern? Take the scores away from 25, subtract them from 25, and see what you get. What was it we say there? Squares. The squares. The different 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. It's called the Breyer scoring rule. It's a squared penalty. It's essentially mean squared error you're calculating there. It's a squared error. And that is a fantastic scoring rule to use for training people to be good probability assessors. Okay, just to finish off then, I'd like to talk about when things go really wrong, which they do. I do radio interviews, and people ask you stupid questions you don't know. Why do people do things? And I think, I'm a statistician. I know about numbers. I know about evidence. But reporters always want to know about why people act in that way. Or at the wrong time. The other thing is always being asked to go on the radio after some terrorist attack or a plane crash to talk about risk. And I refuse. I won't do it, ever. Now, the other thing was this book, Sex. Sex attracts, media attention. And it makes the numbers go really, really bad. So I gave a lecture with a woman who runs the big sex survey in Britain, huge £7 million sex survey. And she said 1/3 of people in Britain now have sex before 16. I don't know what it is in Britain. The median age is 16 in the UK, and 1/3 of young people, women and men, have sex before 16. So that's the British pattern. But by the time this got to the Daily Mail, a newspaper, it had turned out to 30% of total sexual encounters take place before 16. No. They're saying 30% of all sex is for people below 16. No, she didn't say that, and I didn't say that either. So this invites misunderstanding. Oh no, this is some beautiful data, fantastic data. Numbers of sexual partners. This is wonderful data on 2,000 women and men aged between 35 and 44. And it's the reported number of lifetime opposite-sex partners. Now, I love this data. You could tell, give a whole course on just this set of data, what it shows. So what do we see? What's the most common response? What's the mode? One. Oh, that's nice. Nice monogamous thing. But then it's got a very long right-hand tail. Goes out. And you notice that around about here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. People are using all the numbers. They are remembering these individuals. After here, it all starts getting a bit vague. And so 15, 20, 30, 50, all the faces blur into this thing. And actually, I've cut the graph off here because it goes off right there. I would have to put it on a log scale to get it on when it goes into the thousands that people report. So a lot of rounding. People aren't counting. They're just judging. They're just making a number up. And the numbers that people make up are rather different. Because what's the other pattern between men and women? Men are reporting more sexual partners than women do. Now that is mathematically impossible. In a closed population with equal numbers of men and women, the mean number of partners must be the same. Because each of those partnerships is a connection, and if you've got the same numbers, the mean, not the median, but the mean number must be the same. And this is the fact that men report more sexual partners than women is a very common characteristic in sex surveys. People have done many experiments, a lot of study trying to work out why that is. And it seems, I think there's all sorts of reasons. Prostitution is some element of it, but also men just rounding up, just rounding up. Some, for women, social desirability bias, not wanting to acknowledge all their partners. And also for women, just wanting to forget, not considering some people as sexual partners. So, and the other feature that the media are always fascinated by is the fact that in Britain, sex is declining. So this is the survey in 1990 showing that opposite-sex couples between 16 and 44, how many times do they have sex in the last month, in the last 4 weeks? Median 5 times in 1990. Interquartile range between 2 and 9. By 2000, the median had gone down to 4. By 2010, the median had gone down to 3. So people are having less sex, couples are having less sex. And I think that's a reliable statistic. Now, why? Why? Now, the first thing to note is if this trend continues, nobody will be having any sex by 2040. So this is disastrous. Now, why? Well, actually, the iPad. All the newspapers blame the iPad because one of the researchers mentioned the iPad. And I, in fact, think that it is to do with connectivity. You know, the email's always on, the phone's by the bed. You know, there's always this connection. You know, you can always, the outside world is always there. But I also think, and I said this at a recent meeting, maybe, Netflix and box sets are to blame. Or, I can't come to bed, I'm watching the entire second series of Game of Thrones or something like that. Exactly. Okay, so you laughed. Okay, I said all this at a recent literary festival to a public audience, ordinary, just ordinary people. And a journalist didn't quite get the joke. And the next day, in the Daily Telegraph, Science, Britons are having less sex, and Game of Thrones could be warns Cambridge professor. And that said the trend in declining sex rates of the last 30 was very worrying. If current trends continue, couples would not be having sex at all by 2020. So this was, a whole series of jokes reported absolutely seriously. I mean, I was angry and I thought, oh, my reputation is gone and this sort of thing. But that was just the start of it. Because the way the media works now is that one journalist writes a story like that and everyone copies it. And within 3 days, it was everywhere. Games ruining our sex life. Newsweek. Couples will stop having sex by 2030. Dublin Live. Sex will be obsolete, according to one lone son. It's me. It's my. I have spent 40 years building up my reputation. In 2 days, down the toilet in 2 days. Yeah. German, because they could put pictures like that in there all the time. Italian, no sex by 2030. It's probably in Portuguese as well, but I couldn't find it. I think, yeah. Right, I'm just finishing. Yeah. So, is Game of Thrones killing us? One person got the joke. Who produced this graph that I'd produced 5, 4, 3. But he, instead of extrapolating forwards, he extrapolated backwards to 0, where people were having sex 200 times a month at this thing. So one person got the joke. Okay, so to conclude, I think that there's huge demands for statistical insights. This is the age of data science. Data is the international language now. This is such an important area. And statisticians have a very good image. Statisticians, people think they're a bit boring, but they don't think they have agendas. They don't think they have, they think they're independent. So we have a very good place to start from. But it's also important to take this seriously. I got media training. And we have, in the Royal Statistical Society, we have an ambassador program where, again, we give people media training to go out there on the radio, in the newspapers, and so on. And it takes time. It takes time. You need contacts. There's always failures. But I would encourage people, not everyone, but those who are enthusiastic, to get out there and communicate really with the outside world. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. But I will, if I can make the film. Do you want to see how I got on at the end of the wipeout? Yeah, go on. Danny, can I show the... Let me have a go. Let me see if I can make this work. Oh, dear. Technology here. Okay, now, first of all, I can get rid of that. I hope we can get rid of that. Don't say, go away. Okay. Now, no, that's me on holiday. No, it's my partner on holiday. And let's see if I can make this work. Oh, yeah, that's it. I'll go back a bit. This is looking good. Go back a bit like this. And there.
The 12 remaining competitors must mount the ski lift and do their utmost to remain standing. To help them, they have a podium to perch on and a guard. Finally, it's Professor David Spiegelhalter, OBE.
What am I doing here? I don't stand a chance.
Ski pole arms have started. Now they will need to jump over both arms, which get raised up as the game goes on. Remember, the last 5 still hanging will go through to the next round.
Oh, Professor Spiegelhalter,
I don't stand a chance.
All making light work of those ski poles so far. There's Professor Spiegelhalter, OBE, Rob Boy. Those poles are getting higher now. There's John. John again. And James.
Not letting go.
There's Mel.
Oh no, Mel!
Hence now, the next 2 to 4.
Yeah, there's
will be
5
out of
gone.
the competition.
5 gone.
Suspicious.
The next 5 go.
Professor Spiegelhalter, OBE.
Oh!
Just presenting himself to that arm.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
So Professor Spiegelhalter, OBE, is the next victim of this first.
the things one does for statistics. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Obrigado.
Bom, queria fazer 3 comentários. O primeiro é que a organização pediu para todo mundo ficar aqui depois do término da sessão para bater fotos. Ok? Recado dado. 2 comments. First one is, I owe you an apology, as Basilio told me, because it's not Sir Professor, it's Professor Sir David. So, and the second quick comment before questions is that forget about your friend's dog, forget about octopus bow. All you need to get good predictions in football matches is to have Mick Jagger present in the audience and ask him which country he's supporting. He's a perfect predictor.
Right. Okay, I'll remember that one.
Okay, question. Perguntas? While they are thinking, let me ask you a question. How do you get the path across to reach the media, to have the media listening to a statistician, to have him or her reporting?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, and you develop contacts, and you spend a lot of time just helping people, sometimes without getting quoted, just by helping them with stories. So, for example, as I said, no journalist can convert a relative risk to an absolute risk. They cannot do those calculations. And so if you just help people, and it's getting to know people, getting to know journalists, and so on. And that takes some time, and you know, it takes a long time.
David, thanks for that. Was a wonderful speech. As I see, you have a lot of communication with news and so on. But I also realize that what has been happening is that with this big data and data science, there is some kind of competition, let's say, between statistics and computer sciences. And from what I see, I mean, American Statistical Association is doing a great job in promoting statistics, also Royal Statistical Society. But in general, I think that the computer scientists are getting ahead on that. Do you have any suggestion, any point of view on that?
Yeah, I don't believe that, and we'll be discussing that, I think, at the session on the ISI session on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Wednesday, yeah. So I think it's a very important point, but I'm not so worried, in fact, because the computer science, the data science people, including the visualization people and their data analytics, the predictive analytics, are really doing something different. They are using data and communicating with it. Fantastic. It's very good what they do. They are not interpreting the data. They are not telling the stories around why, you know, the inference. They're not doing statistical inference. Now, I would never use that phrase in the media, but what the newspapers want to do is to understand statistical inference. You can never use those words or talk about significance, and never use those words. But you can talk about evidence and how strong it is and whether you believe something. So, you know, the Bacon story is not a data science story. It's a statistics story. So I think, you know, they both have a very strong role, and they both are doing rather, not different things, because they can also help each other and do similar things. So I am not anxious. I think that there's always a role for statistical thinking. And the issues of statistical thinking, which are, you know, a lot of them developed in fairly small samples, they only get worse when you've got more data. Multiple testing, false positives, and so biases, they just get worse. So I think there's always a role for statisticians.
Okay, time for one very quick question and one very quick answer.
Yeah, okay, very quick answer.
David, thank you very much for a very nice talk. I just like to ask you, which is your team? Which is the guys that have been working with you on that? You know, because you are not alone for doing all things. So yes.
No, that is the crucial thing, is that you can't do it on your own. You need both. You need some people to do websites and so on, but also you need contacts within other organizations that are trying to improve the way that numbers are used in the news and in society. And so you have to form alliances with other people who are interested in other aspects of it, of maybe fact-checking the news. So you can't do it on your own at all. You have to work with other people who have got a similar ideology, because it is an ideology. I think it's a very strong ethical position. My work is driven by ethics. I just believe that people should be told information to make up their own minds and not manipulated. So that's my feeling. And you have to then work with other people who feel the same.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Time to go. Okay, thank you very, very much for a nice talk.